If you were abducted by a murderer and forced to crawl through a steel tunnel full of traps, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made by the abducted, what you should do, and how to beat the death tunnel in Meander. This labyrinth is claustrophobic, unpredictable, and deadly. Surviving requires quick thinking, quick moving, and nerves as tough as the steel tunnel walls. Ultimately, there's a mystery about this place to uncover. It's not just a psychopathic science nerd's take on Saw. We begin with a young woman lying in the middle of a deserted road when a car drives up and offers her a ride. The woman eventually accepts and introduces herself as Lisa to the driver, Adam. The two make light small talk about today being Lisa's deceased daughter's birthday. To change the subject, Lisa turns on the radio, only to hear a news report describing a murder suspect that matches Adam perfectly, down to the cross tattoo on his right hand. Look, your recently deceased daughter's birthday has to be a tough day. You're not in a great place mentally, so you're not going to be making rational decisions, like walking into the middle of nowhere and laying down in the middle of the road. Death by truck rolling over you is a terrible way to go. Another terrible way to go is being abducted by a BTK type. Adam's approach to Lisa is actually pretty effective. He isn't pushy, doesn't seem dangerous, but still, we should not get in his car. We have no idea who it is, if they have a gun or knife, or what their intentions are. We're vulnerable as hell. There's no good way to protect ourselves, save for a pistol in our jacket pocket pointed at him without him knowing. Even then, if the other person has an ulterior motive to hurt us, we won't be able to react fast enough in the car's close quarters. The reasons why she should get in the car, it being in the middle of nowhere, cold, dark, late at night, far from help or other people, are the same reasons why she shouldn't get in his car. Nobody will be around to hear her scream. Adam said that there was a gas station 6 or 7 miles up the road. If that's true, she could walk that in a couple hours. She could also wait to hitchhike with someone of less or equal physical ability, like another woman or older person. A grungy, muscular 30-year-old male is literally the most dangerous, homicide-prone demographic you could pick to get into a car with, alone at night. A 6-mile lift to the station would take less than 5 minutes by car, so I get it. It's tempting. If I was to get into Adam's car, which I wouldn't, I agree with Lisa's instinct to not buckle her seatbelt when hitchhiking so she has a quicker getaway if need be. If Adam turns out to be a bad guy, having to unbuckle her seatbelt will take a couple precious seconds and telegraph her intention to escape. Sure, she does risk getting injured if they crash or if he intentionally pumps the brakes, but it's only a 5-minute drive on a slower back road with very little traffic. I'd say Adam is the bigger potential danger. Then again, why would you get into his car if you thought he posed a danger? And why would you be monologuing details about your life that make you seem like an easy target? Yeah, I have no husband, child, family, or friends that would expect me to show up anywhere. It'd probably take a few weeks before anyone noticed I was missing. Oh, weird. The radio's saying something about a murderer on the loose driving a brown truck. That initial hesitation where you're momentarily stunned determines whether you survive. There's no question that Adam is the culprit. He gives himself away by turning off the radio, and that tattoo is right there. It's like that thing where she knows that he knows that she knows that he's the killer. Without her seatbelt buckled, she needs to immediately pop the door while tucking and rolling. They're going slow enough that she'd survive it just fine. Hopefully she learned her lesson. Don't change the radio station in a stranger's car. She at least deserved to dribble off the dash for that. As for Adam, if you knew you had been made by a witness, why would you be picking up strangers in the same car a witness saw you in? And why wouldn't you cover your hand tattoo with a proper glove? If he really wanted to go for number 3 right then, he should have immediately incapacitated her. I get he wanted to ask some questions to see if she was a good target, which she fell for, but she was laying down in the middle of a deserted road at night. It's obvious she's a good target. Unfortunately for him, she had the insane luck to switch to a channel at that exact moment. A few seconds in either direction, or a different station, and he'd have had her in the bag. Not that I'm rooting for him or anything. The metaphorical shot has been fired. Let's see what Lisa does. If Lisa battle-hardened her mind by playing strategy games like this video's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends, she might have been able to beat this situation with less limbs lost. Raid is a free-to-play RPG mobile game with 600 plus champions from unique factions. Download it by using using my link in the description or scan my QR code. Create your teams and clans, earn shards, and come up with strategies to annihilate the enemies, like the dungeon boss Guardian of the Void Keep, Malik Kavar. He went from being the Priest of Light to being exiled by his fellow priests for his dark magic. I like how you need to strategize to go against this beast boss and his poison. It can instantly damage you and take out your whole team at once. Mainly shield buffs and healing can counteract the damage from his poison. Raid also has new updates. There's a fresh rotation of the biggest baddest boss Hydra, who is a super powered clan boss with multiple different heads, and each one has unique mechanics. Special Valentine's Day events where you can get your hands on a brand new legendary champion. Download Raid, click my link in the description or scan my QR code to get cool bonuses. Get a free epic champion, Tyrell, 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill, and 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. Rewards are only available for new players and only for the next 30 days. All this treasure will be waiting for you here. Before Lisa has time to do anything, he slams the brakes, knocking her out when her head collides with the dashboard. When Lisa regains consciousness, she finds herself trapped in a steel box about half her height. She's now wearing a full-piece spandex suit and finds a large glowing yellow bracelet attached to her left hand. She tries to physically force her way out, screaming to be released, but nothing happens. Well, that didn't go too well. It's obvious that Adam knocked us unconscious and threw us into a saw-like steel contraption he devised. Or is it? Adam seemed more like the heat of passion murder type, not the design a space-age steel death contraption type. Maybe looks were deceiving. Either way, it doesn't change much other than we should be expecting high-tech pain. Judging from the lack of G's felt from stopping or turning, we can deduce that she's not in a vehicle. If I was the serial killer, I'd have built this in a factory or underground. Given that we were drugged, stripped down, reclothed, and placed in this box, it's slim chances help is nearby. There's also not much in the way of air vents, so screaming or flailing will reduce the oxygen in the tunnel faster. We don't see anything else resembling a clue besides the bracelet, and it's only providing a light source. There's no text or sound cues. The lights on the wall look like Morse code, but are practically impossible to decode. In Morse code, each letter is represented by a unique sequence of dots and dashes. To separate each distinct letter, a longer gap equal to the length of the dash is left at the end of each letter. To separate each word, a gap of 7 dots is left between each word. On our tunnel walls, there's no gaps at all, so no groups of letters or words can be made out. It's frustrating. This should be a thing, but they probably just added lights in this format because they thought it looked cool in sci-fi. There's honestly not much to do but stay calm, stay chill, and just wait. After a few minutes of Lisa struggling, one of the walls reveals an opening to a long, narrow tunnel. Okay, to go through the hole or not to. I'm going to assume that this is some Darth Vader Saw reimagining, where I'm going to have to survive a game that I'm inevitably brutally maimed in order to maybe live. Considering the police on the radio said 2 girls were found dead that morning, both linked to Adam, it's not looking good. I'm not so sure I'm ready to leave my steel box quite yet. The police already know Adam's height, race, age, tattoo, hairstyle, truck type, and color. Will he get caught and the police find us before we die of dehydration in a few days? On one hand, he was dumb enough to get identified by a witness. On the other hand, this is obviously crafted by an intelligent person. I don't think staying will do us much good. Our choice is die here or maybe die there, so let's go. Lisa begins crawling her way through the opening. As soon as she makes it to the other side, the hatch closes and her wristband begins counting down from 11 minutes. The hatch closing behind her was pretty much expected to happen, not that there was anything she could have done about it. It might be important to note that with no cameras, the tunnel might be reacting to her motion, weight, or wristband location. I'm clearly being manipulated with the wristband timer, instilling a sense of urgency, and if I'm being led somewhere, that means it's completely in my captor's control. If this game was designed by Adam, well, unlike Jigsaw, he doesn't seem like the code of honor or lesson-giving type. Still, sitting on the bench meditating 11 minutes away is probably a bad idea. The 11 minutes might be how much oxygen we have left. It might be an explosive, slit our wrist, or inject us with poison if we don't start crawling through the Jeffries tubes. The other thing about timers like this is that they never give you an abundance of time. If they give you 11 minutes, it means you actually have 10 minutes and 30 seconds to complete the task before you die. We need to move fast enough to not waste time, but slow enough to detect patterns, clues, or test things. A tricky balance. Let's keep going. Lisa, though petrified, continues ahead. Eventually, another wall blocks her path and she's forced to inch forward through a very tiny opening. Alright, since the space is so tight, you want to try to be as calm as possible and take slow, shallow breaths while moving yourself. Shallow breaths allow your midsection and lungs to stay more compact, which might only save you a few centimeters, but you could still use all the space you can get. Focusing on your breathing also keeps you from panicking, which is extremely easy to do in confined spaces. So far, this appears to be more of a linear tunnel. Still, it might be wise to etch markings into the tunnel walls she's in to indicate where she's been and to check if the tunnels are changing at all. Besides that, we need to keep crawling quickly. After successfully squeezing past her first obstacle, Lisa encounters a split tunnel where she could either go over or under a platform. I'm getting elevator crushing vibes here. The blue to yellow to red colors seem to me to indicate a danger zone on both ends, and the platform perfectly fits at the top and bottom. This may be the first trap or test of some sort. I'd expect the floor to move up and crush me if I went topside, and the reverse if I went low. Going high makes the most sense to me since we could dive across it, grab the lip on the end of it, and pull ourselves across quickly. It works with our joint directions better than going low. Like we mentioned earlier, the wristband could activate whatever this is. Before I jumped in, I'd try putting my wristband under the platform to see if I could trigger it to move in the opposite direction, as well as see how fast it moves or what other things it does. We'd likely need to be in the center of the platform before it initiates anything though. No matter the case, we need to make it to the other side as fast as possible to not get crushed, and because the wristband is still ticking down. Lisa climbs on top of the platform. As she makes her way across, the floor begins to rise. She dives for the other side, narrowly avoiding being blocked off and crushed to death. Not bad, Lisa. Not bad at all. It's good that she didn't try to back her way out in a panic, which would have been far too slow and ended up with her getting crushed. We see that the platform that almost crushed us resets once we're past it, which would imply that it's reused, meaning that there's a chance there might be others also abducted who could help, or who will be pitted against us in a match to the death. The latter is far more likely. It'd be best to watch our backs in here. As Lisa catches her breath, her wristband displays just over 5 minutes left on her timer. Still not knowing its purpose, she pushes ahead, where she finds a rotting corpse wearing the same wristband as her. Okay, other participants in this game, partially confirmed. Crematorium traps, fully confirmed. We're still on the timer, but I think taking a few moments to assess and loot the body is worth it. This person was incinerated here. There's no sign of the body being dragged around. This means the tube is capable of producing burners anywhere, and getting torched is what happens when our time runs out. Their cuff is blue, while ours is yellow, possibly because she's dead, in which case using it to prematurely trigger traps likely won't work. It's still worth a shot though. I'd take the cuff off and inspect the inside to see if there's any obvious lethal mechanisms or ways to take it off. Also doubtful this would reveal anything. At the very least, it would be something to throw in self-defense. This corpse's femur would also be great to take for self-defense. Attempts to trigger traps or attempts to wedge between closing hatches to give us more time. I say the femur because it's unbelievably strong. Typically 19 inches long and weighing a little more than 10 ounces, it can withstand up to 4,000 newtons of force without breaking. This is also what makes it great for self-defense. Recent studies have shown that Stone Age hunters used human bones when making their weapons, and ancient hunters had elaborate daggers made from the thigh bone. Researchers estimate the weapons could withstand about 31% more force than other daggers of the time. Point being, take the femur. We've used enough time on this corpse, and unless we want to end up like her, we need to stomach our disgust and crawl over her quickly. Lisa slowly clears the corpse from her path, dismembering a few limbs along the way. A gate drops down that Lisa can't squeeze past, preventing her from moving. As she struggles to go forward, her bracelet and the tunnel both start glowing red. Burners emerge from the walls, and the cuff begins counting down the last 60 seconds. Just as it looks like she has nowhere to go, the wall opens up behind her and creates a crawl space. Well, I think the burned corpse mystery is solved. There's clearly no way to squeeze through or pry open the gate. The burners line the tunnel all the way back, so there's no way she can crawl backwards to escape it. Our only realistic choice is to get into that crawl space before the clock runs out. Lisa scoots herself into the area in time and is sealed inside. Fire then engulfs the entire segment of the tube while Lisa remains protected behind the glass panel in her space. Once the fire is extinguished, Lisa is shoved out and her bracelet timer resets, counting down from 11 minutes again. Damn, yeah, that corpse lady was just a few feet from the crawl space when she was torched. That sucks. We now know that 11 minutes is is a countdown to the incineration interval, and as I mentioned earlier, you only have 10 minutes and 30 seconds to make it to the safe space. There's no time for counting your blessings. Gotta keep moving. After taking a few precious moments to compose herself, she continues slowly wriggling her body to the next part of the maze, which is a portion of the tubes that's been submerged in water. God, as if claustrophobia wasn't bad enough. Drinking some of the water is probably a bad idea. It might be tempting because hydration is important for physical activities like crawling through tunnels and cooling down after the burners go off, but there's just too many risks involved. It could be contaminated with a chemical or a rotting body of another victim, and really, it's only been 15 minutes. You can't be that thirsty. Since Lisa's wedged on her back, she doesn't know how wide or deep the opening is, and if the passage ahead is completely blocked. I would have made an initial dive into the water to get my bearings of the surroundings down there, then gone back up for air before making my way down a flooded tunnel with no visible exit. Before the final plunge, we need to get our breathing right. When you hold your breath, the instinct to inhale is triggered not by a lack of oxygen, but by the accumulation of carbon dioxide. This is why the best strategy for holding your breath is very slowly breathing for several minutes, trying to lower your heart rate as much as possible. Then take a big deep breath before diving in. I also would have kicked off with my feet to get some extra speed. Though it may seem counterintuitive, breathing out a little air as you swim would let you hold your breath longer. When you breathe in, you're contracting the muscle of your diaphragm, pulling it flat so that the volume of your chest increases and air is drawn into your lungs. When you hold your breath, you keep your diaphragm in this contracted state. Breathing out a little air lets the diaphragm relax a bit and increases how long you can hold your breath by delaying how quickly the diaphragm muscle gets tired. And we can't forget about the femur. We could shove it under our suit or carry it against our non-dominant forearm bone to reduce drag while swimming. Hopefully this is enough to make it to the other side. Lisa tries to slow her breathing, then dives in. The exit isn't too far away, but when she gets there, that segment rapidly begins to fill with water and another rotting corpse. Okay, the only logical thing to do in this scenario is rush to where the water and bodies are pouring in from. For all we know, the hatches behind us closed up. We know that there at least has to be an entry point big enough for a human body because a corpse came in with all the water. It didn't look like the water pressure was too intense to climb up against. I don't think we need to wait for the room to fill up and settle before swimming or climbing up it. Like all the traps we've encountered so far, moving fast, usually forwards, is the best option. Lisa waits until the room fills with water before swimming up to the next tube section. Struggling to continue through a seemingly unending tunnel, Lisa feels a glimmer of hope when she hears another victim screaming for help. As she makes her way to the voice, the floor underneath her opens up to reveal a bubbly green pool. I think it's pretty obvious from the bubbling and green lighting that this is a pool of corrosive acid. I wonder if they had the green lighting installed because previous victims accidentally jumped in and ended themselves too quickly. Since we know nothing about the corrosive material in the pool other than it's green, it'd be a good idea to tear off a piece of cloth from the suit or use the femur we've been dragging along this whole damn time to test how corrosive it is. Is it basically lava or a bubble bath leading to safety that's dressed up to deter us? Yeah, it's probably not a bubble bath. We need to cross it. We could use the acid to burn off an edge of the wristband, though that carries the risk of ruining the timer and our source of light. The source of light shouldn't be an issue since we smartly chose to bring the other victim's blue wristband with us. The timer also really doesn't matter, or it hasn't so far. We just need to keep moving quickly. With our cuff partially severed, we could take it off, put it on the end of the femur, and dangle it over the acid pit to try to activate any surprises the trap has waiting for us. Since it's damaged, it might not help us, or whoever is controlling this might be triggering traps some other way. It seems too easy to crawl across the edges. If I had to guess, the walls will retract once we're in the middle, making it more and more difficult as we go, similar to the crusher platform. I don't know what the goal is here, but our captor selection torture process oddly favors an ability to quickly crawl. Getting cube vibes here, if the cube was made by an 8-year-old that sucked at math, which the cube was, so it's even worse than that. I digress, and the clock is ticking. Lisa rips a piece of cloth off her suit and confirms the acid test. She figures the task must be as simple as using these side walls to crawl across without falling in, and she's correct. When she makes it across, she loosens up too early and dips her knee in, scalding it badly. Once fully across, the floor closes up over the acid pool, and she continues following the voice of the other victim to a crossroads in the tunnel. She yells down the hole, with no response from the man. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bummed the walls didn't retract over the acid pool. Talk about a missed opportunity. Lisa accidentally dipping her knee in is gonna cost her by making the low crawling, which is already insanely taxing on the body, even more difficult. The muffled muffled voice is good and bad. The good, this means that not everyone dies immediately, and you can find a way to survive for a bit of time. The bad, desperation can bring out the worst in people. We do have an option to find them or avoid them. When we initially heard the voice, it appeared as though there was a potential path forwards that we could have chosen instead of going down through the hole in the bottom of the tunnel. I hesitate to find the man. This being a confined tunnel that only one person can fit through at a time, it doesn't seem like a team sport. Having a wild card blocking off our front or back would have gotten us killed in the crusher platform and burner traps. The argument for finding him is that he's made it further than us, could provide useful learnings, and those traps, excluding the burner trap, did reset after we passed them, and even the burner trap did have enough room for 2 people to squeeze in. I'd say we go find him. After we go down the hole, we should also use our cuff to etch an X next to the hole so we can keep track of our way back. Armed with our acid-sharpened femur, I think we're prepared enough to take our chances with the victim, and kill him if need be, which, if we're being honest, is inevitable. Lisa crawls down into the bottom of the tunnel, follows his voice, and eventually finds a disheveled man on opposite sides of a gated passageway. They talk to each other, and it becomes clear that the man has been trapped for quite a while, and is now losing his mind from the pressure. Unfortunately, it seems like it may be too late for our new companion. Since he doesn't see our arrival as any reconciliation, we can safely assume that if we aren't the first person to interact with him, then he's either killed others in order to last this long, or hopelessly watched them die. Either way, it's time to get the femur dagger out. Lisa tries to calm him down, but is unable to get any helpful information out of him. Their conversation becomes hysterical once both gadgets begin counting down at the last minute. The lights turn red, burners start emerging from the walls, and that same crawl space appears halfway in the tunnel between them. It's a race. Firstly, Lisa should not have put her head through the bars. This could easily have led to a decapitation with the force those gates move with. Why risk your neck in between there? I think it goes without saying, this is a Kira get that ass moving moment. The previous burner had enough room for 2, but we can't expect that to be the case here, nor that this crazy man growling at us will be kind enough to share. Again, it's time to get the femur dagger out. The gates separating them open. Lisa and the man fight each other for the safe space. Lisa eventually gets the upper hand on her opponent, kicking him out and pinning his arm to the wall with her foot just before the area is sealed. The partition comes down like a guillotine, severing his arm off and stranding him. Well, there was enough room for the 2 of us to hug it out before the tunnel got torched. There simply wasn't enough time to negotiate or calm him down. Even if there was, the risk that he might betray us and push us into the guillotine at the last second was too high. Lisa did well to use her legs to push him out while bracing her back against the cubby wall, but the femur dagger would have given her an immense advantage. As for the crazed man, when his hand was pinned, instead of trying to pull his arm free, he should have tried to roll his body inside the cubby and onto her. Wouldn't have helped much, since he'd get shivved to death by our bone knife. Nonetheless, we got in before the lock. Sayonara, bro. Before the man is overtaken by fire, Lisa sees the same tattoo on his hand as Adam, the serial killer who attacked her. Adam then gets incinerated by the burners, leaving nothing but a corpse resembling the one from earlier. Lisa faints after the flames disappear and awakens to a hybrid organic technological probe emerging from the ceiling. It heals her knee and then connects a tube to her suit, which restores her memories of what happened in Adam's truck. Adam attacked her with a knife. After she was stabbed, the two were approached by a huge bright light in the sky. Wow, this changes absolutely everything. First, let's talk about Adam attacking Lisa. The best way to defend against knife-wielding attackers is, well, running. But by the time our face recoils off the dash, a knife is already coming at us. The second best way is by grabbing their knife-wielding wrist with both hands, pulling it and twisting it away from them. I know, easier said than done. Adam, stronger than we are, has the advantage of being the one with the knife, and it's well understood that in any knife fight, you're almost guaranteed to get cut. It's a good thing we never buckled up. This at least gives us a chance to pop the door and run if we somehow manage to survive his first stabs. Secondly, it's now clear that Adam isn't our captor, and we've either been abducted by aliens, this is a secret government testing facility, or this is some kind of purgatory before the afterlife, like a mix of the cube and circle. I think we can rule out purgatory because on the radio, a man was heard talking about a bright light hovering in the sky. Sounds like a UFO to me. Adam's hair growth would suggest he's been inside for years. I don't know how he's been keeping his beard so trimmed though, or how he could survive in this tunnel for that long. As for why we're so fresh, I guess it's possible that we were kept in stasis cryonically while Adam was sent into the tunnel first. Why aliens would choose us and torture us, we can only speculate. So far, the only winning strategy has been to keep moving. There's gotta be clues that we're missing. After re-entering entering the maze, she inspects the remaining hand on her companion and sees Diamond X Diamond symbols branding under the glowing wrist cuffs. Before she can inspect the limb any further, the crawl space closes, pushing her into the tunnel. Seconds later, sharp spinning blades at her front begin moving towards her. I'm alarmed that there was nothing left of Adam in the tunnel. It takes hours at extremely high heat to incinerate someone, and even then, there's ash and bone fragments left behind. Sublimation, aka vaporizing Adam's body, would take about 3 gigajoules of energy. That's equal to about a ton of TNT, or a low-yield atomic bomb. This is improbable, to say the least. What's more likely is his body was removed via a trapdoor mechanism. Not sure why, when other corpses were left in the tunnel. And I'm not sure why he has hugs and kisses symbols on his wrist, or if he had them before all this. There's not much time to deliberate with the death fans approaching. Placing our hands against the fan casing's edges as it pushes us back isn't as great an idea as it seems. It'd push us all the way back into a wall, and its concave shape would push our hands inwards towards the blades. And it's pretty obvious, bone nor cuff will stop those blades. There isn't much else we can do here besides shuffling backwards towards the hole in the ceiling we came down from, and hope it's still there. Lisa retreats and escapes back up through the hole in the ceiling she came from at the last second. While up there, a growling creature drops in behind her. When she looks back, she notices it's missing its left arm. It's Adam, a horribly deformed and charred zombie version of Adam. Doesn't seem too friendly after what happened. Damn, even dying is hard in this place. It is possible that Adam wasn't actually incinerated, just crisped up a bit and dropped through a trap door. One thing's for sure, Adam's continued existence is a punishment for the both of us. Lisa spends way too much time just waiting there with Adam's zombie behind her. We're on a time limit. A growling corpse is not there to make things easier for us. He seems to be blind and partially deaf, only getting alerted when she makes a noise. If we must, we do have the femur dagger, which we could shank him down with, kick him in the head, or grab his other arm and break it. But a fight takes time and energy we don't have. We need to start quietly crawling away as quickly as possible, taking care not to bang our cuff. Hopefully he doesn't notice us. After giving zombie Adam the slip, Lisa enters an area where she can finally stand and choose between 2 open tunnels to continue her journey. She hesitantly picks the left one, and as she moves through it, it echoes the sounds of her dead daughter singing happily. The tube opens up to walls displaying scenes from Lisa's life, including the day her daughter died after falling out a window. Okay, as hard as it is, we need to try not to get caught up in the IMAX screening of her life story. This reeks of being another trap, just instead of blades and acid, it's using emotional manipulation as a stalling obstacle we have to overcome. The clock is still ticking. Just as Lisa starts moving into the next tunnel, zombie Adam gets lowered from the ceiling behind her. Lisa rushes into the tunnel to escape. Finding herself in another fire tunnel that is about to be consumed, she excruciatingly crawls through barbed wire, slicing her back while trying to reach the end. Zombie Adam takes shelter in the safety nook that belatedly appears, but Lisa doesn't make it before the time runs out. As the fire erupts, the floor drops out beneath her, and she plummets into darkness. I don't get this. Why not have the crawl space appear after the razor wire, thus testing our will to cross it to live? What's the point in pulling all this Shyamalan Deus Ex Machina bullshit? At this point, all I can think of is that our aliens get off on inducing anxiety in their lab rats. Crossing past the razor wire was the only reasonable move, and there wasn't time to go back once she did. However, Lisa made this far more painful than was necessary. When we reached the barbed wire, we should have flipped onto our back and used our cuff and the femur to help hold the wire up away from our body as we shimmied under it. At this point, we might as well name the femur Wilson. Once the wire is over our hips, we should be in the clear. Not that it even matters, with the trapdoor saving us at the last second. The purpose of all this is getting confusing. There has to be another way. Lisa wakes up in the starting room again. The alien head comes down to heal her wounds, but she tells it to just leave, seemingly giving up on life. She uses her blood to wall paint the diamond across diamond symbol she saw on Adam's wrist in hopes of helping the next contestant. Right before the alien euthanizes her, she has an epiphany that the 3 symbols are actually 6 left and right arrows, serving as a guide for the Y-shaped tunnels like the one she found, and that she needs to remove her own cuff in the acid to access her own instructions, which will properly guide her out of the tunnel. Finally thinking that she has found the way out, she halts the lethal injection tube and prepares to run the course again. Okay, it's a bit of a jump to think that these random symbols are directions. Why have directions obfuscated in such an abstract way? It's not some tricky riddle or code we have to decode intelligently. It's just a terrible, confusing way to write directions. It would have been more clever to write each trap or Y section's directions as a riddle in the Morse code lighting lighting next to it. Hell, it's the same weird issue with the Morse code lighting. There's no gaps between them. What is it with these aliens not adding gaps to delineate things properly? If we assume that they're directions, how do left and right arrows help us navigate all the ups and downs? Sure, you could turn your arm horizontally so the arrow is pointed up and down, but that adds confusion. Is an arrow considered used when we go up, down, or left, right? That can't be, because in most cases we have to go down or up, like the acid pit or submerged tube. It doesn't make sense that an arrow would be used for those. The hole we went down to find Adam is also irrelevant, since the fan pushed us back up the hole anyways. These arrows don't seem to be relevant for ups, downs, or the challenges themselves. If we're assuming that these are only left and right directions, this means traps are defeated by our own wit and speed, and the Y tunnel we faced must be the first of 6. Adam's symbol's directions would have taken us down the same left tunnel we died in. There's no reason to expect that we have the same starting place or would have the same directions in a tunnel that morphs. We need to check our own wrist. We shouldn't need to burn our cuff off first because Adam's symbols were visible with his cuff still on. We should be able to pull the cuff back enough to make out the top of the marking at least, which would be enough. Which again is dumb. Why not make it so the contestants have to figure out how to remove the cuff in order to access directions? Missed opportunities everywhere. If for some reason we had to use the acid to remove the cuff, that also serves as further evidence that the directions are only left and right, since we'd have passed by a few ups and downs already. If we pull our cuff back to check, we'd see our markings are XX diamond. Translated, it's right, left, left, right. So basically, with this theory, we need to do the exact same thing we did before, skipping the Adam tunnel, and use these left-right arrows to guide us through the assumedly 6 Y-shaped tunnel splits. I almost hope this doesn't work with how dumb it is. Lisa successfully traverses the course again. When she gets to the acid pool, she burns off her cuff, revealing her own directions branded on her wrist, XX diamond. She skips going down the Adam tunnel and hits the first Y split. Instead of going left like last time, she goes right as the arrows indicate. She goes left in the next Y split, then right through the third one. When she gets into the third tunnel, the Adam zombie drops down behind her through a hole in the ceiling. God damn it, this actually seems to be working. I guess we just need to make it past whatever challenges confront us while following the remaining left, right arrows in the next 3 Y splits. Adam isn't going away on his own. He's almost like another challenge we have to face. Between Y split tunnels, there always seems to be a room tall enough to stand in. These are perfect areas to attack him from. We would be standing with Wilson, sharpened and ready to plunge into Adam's neck while he's vulnerable crawling out of the tunnel. He's blind and only follows the sounds we make. He wouldn't even see it coming, literally, because he's blind. Lisa makes it out of the 3rd Y split and correctly goes left in the 4th Y split. She makes it out of that tunnel into a spinning room and escapes it with Adam still hot on her tail. She panics at the 5th Y split when her cuff begins to beep and flash purple. She throws it down the left tube to misdirect Adam while she goes right. After taking a moment to catch her breath, Lisa realizes that she sent the zombie down the path she was supposed to take and now has no choice but to take the wrong tunnel. I mean, leading Adam down the wrong passage is smart, but of course, it would have been better to send him down the other tunnel you didn't need, or just shank him with Wilson as he came out of the tunnel so we can navigate with a clear head. If I were Lisa, I wouldn't continue in the wrong direction, which most likely leads to a dead end full of burners. I would yell to bait Adam back out so I could shank him down and continue down the correct left tube. Let's see how the right tube shakes out for Lisa. Lisa arrives at a membrane leading to an alien womb-like room with creatures on the other side of the walls. She keeps moving forward, punching through the fleshy membrane leading into the 2nd womb chamber. In this one, an unconscious zombie Adam is at the other side with her bracelet in the middle. As she snatches the cuff, it beeps with the burner countdown, awakening Adam. Lisa retreats backwards into the tunnel and gets into a shelter right before the partition closes. Instead of torching the tunnel, the partition opens, and Lisa is pushed back out to fight the zombie. After a struggle, Lisa crushes his skull with her heel, finally killing him. I'd like to see Adam come back from that. I still think Wilson would have been a far better method for removing removing Adam's head, but at least he's gone. I'm not sure how Zombie Adam ended up in the chamber in front of her when he had been in the other tunnel. The only thing I can think of is whatever is controlling this whole setup stepped in and course-corrected Adam's trail. Since we went down the wrong path, I don't think I'd use Wilson to cut out of the womb and confront the alien things. It's best to assume that they're hostile and it's another trap. The burner trap not activating is strange. It may have something to do with our destruction of the cuff, but we can't rely on this being the case. Now, we can go back to the 5th Y-split and go left like we should have. Lisa retraces her steps and correctly goes down the left tunnel of the 5th Y-split. However, as she's about to go through the right side of the last one and be free, her dead daughter appears, asking her not to leave and to go down the left side. Though tempted, Lisa ultimately leaves. Confronting the fact that her daughter is dead, nothing will bring her back, and realizing that this is yet another emotional manipulation challenge, baiting her the wrong way. I'm glad Lisa didn't fall for this obvious test of her ability to let go of the past. She did burn a lot of time though. Don't want to get fried and turn into Lisa Zombie after getting this far. We need to keep moving. Lisa is almost free, with her final obstacle being 3 guillotine blades that slice up and down at 4, 3, and 2 second intervals. What is this thing? I mean, there's no useful purpose for there being a bunch of choppy, crushy things in the middle of a hallway. We've been assuming the arrows were left to right directions this whole time, and so far they seem to be leading true. This may in fact be the last challenge. We just need to count each blade's rhythm first. The 4-second interval is doable. The 3-second one is tough. The second one is gonna be painful. For the last door with the 2-second timer, I would have tried to curl up parallel next to the panel after it lowered. Once the blade drops, I would lean into it as it raised up, giving me the most time possible to roll through it, instead of the slight delay waiting and watching it might give. And by rolling in a more tucked and curled up position, we have the least amount of exposed area for the blade to hit. This would still be difficult, and there's no guarantee we'd make it through unscathed, but it would give us a better chance than rushing in a crawling position with our feet dragging fairly far behind us. And in case you're wondering, yes, I do think that we should still hang on to Wilson. Lisa counts the rhythm of the blades and safely makes it past the first 2, but slices off the top of her right foot on the final and fastest blade. Though in agony, Lisa finally makes it to the opening that leads outside, only to find the outside was just another illusion. Overcome by despair, Lisa breaks down crying as the chamber glows red. As a signal, it's about to be flamethrower o'clock. Lisa accepts her death, but instead of fire, she's transported to a ravine of a beautiful alien planet with her daughter, who tells her she's free. Wow, didn't know all I needed to pass through your pearly gates was a Nintendo cheat code. Great test, guys. I feel like Lisa just made a breakthrough in her grieving process, and hanging out with her dead daughter is probably gonna be a setback in accepting her death. What is Lisa even supposed to do now? Live that cave woman life with her ghost daughter? I'm not sure if the daughter is actually there physically or just an alien hologram constructed to look like her. Either way, she is Lisa's only connection at this point to any intelligent life or any answers. I'd continue to ask questions. Can I ever go back? How will I survive here? What will I use for food, water, shelter? Why did you select me? Will you ever stop abducting people? Will you at least improve your trap design because it's arbitrary as fuck? You know, things along those lines. Hopefully we can get some useful information from the Nina clone. Depending on her answers, we prepare for our life in a new alien homeworld, are taken care of like a pet, or somehow find a way back home. Regardless, at least we beat the death maze. You can ultimately look at this situation in one of 2 ways. Either, 1, they were abducted by aliens. This is more than likely what's going on, and like I mentioned earlier, the garbled radio channels reported a UFO sighting. Why aliens give a shit about Lisa's life story, tortured her to test her will, and if she was strong enough to be accepted into a utopian illusion is beyond me. Why not patch her up and drop her back off at home so she can move on with her life? The second way you can look at this is it's the afterlife. Lisa and Adam both die during their altercation in the car, and at the end, Lisa is being rewarded with paradise for overcoming her fears and accepting her daughter's death. You could say part of her punishment is proving that she would fight for her life. Zombie Adam's prolonged treatment is because he's a crazy psycho serial killer. I think the tunnel maze was beaten because even though we couldn't make our way back home, we could have navigated the tunnel with less suffering. We did somewhat get a new lease on life, and we still have Wilson. Thanks for watching, and remember, don't hitchhike near Area 51.